Time to build something relatively simple, a good old Chaos Rhino. After building and painting models like the Helldrake, possessed Marines, a nice simple box on treads like the Rhino here, it's a nice change of pace, it really is. But of course, don't get it twisted, by the time this thing is all done and painted, it ain't just gonna be some simple Rhino. And I think at this stage, the thing that best demonstrates that is the fact that I'm gonna snip the spikes at the front, because indeed, as any Alpha Legion thing should, this thing's gonna be partway through transforming. Though at the same time, in fairness, while there are other Chaos ornaments I could put on this thing, even if he was fully in Alpha Legion form, I don't think he'd be adorned with a crazy amount of skulls and spikes and whatnot. It just doesn't strike me as their style. Thus, the spikes on the front are about all there is. We're going to rely on color and iconography to distinguish between the true form and the disguised form. And I'm sure you guys can guess what he's going to be disguised as. With this fella primed and nice silver, it's time to paint his base coats. And much like in my Necron kill team, I'm trying to get myself used to an airbrush. And on a canvas as big and relatively blank as this one, how could I not airbrush? Much like with my other Alpha Legion, I'm going for a very thin coat of Cabalite green to try and allow some of that silver to shine through, because I want a metallic kind of teal. But I fear I may have mixed it slightly wrong, because unfortunately, it came out a little bit thicker and thus not as metallic as I wanted. But still, hero. I also didn't shade the silver before priming it like I did the others. I want to try shading on top of the Cabalite this time, just to see how it turns out. It wasn't perfectly even, as I'm still getting used to the airbrush, so I went over it a little bit with a brush just to sort of even things out a little bit, before then adding some Cabalite to the top of the hatch and also the missile launcher thing there. But still, overall, when you're not thinking it's Sons of Horus, it's definitely Alpha Legion. Or is it? With the airbrushing done, it's time to see what it's like with the shading on top. I hit it with Drakenhof Nightshade, and I want to try and bring the blue up to make it more in line with Alpha Legion, and less like Sons of Horus from the Heresy. The real challenge was trying not to make it streaky, but what streaks there were, I made sure that they were in line with the vehicle's movements, as if it had blown through dust, dirt, debris, etc., so it works alright. Then I spent the rest of today's painting sesh doing details, mainly metal ones like hinges and various port openings, etc. And while I think I did a pretty good job with them, it won't be until tomorrow that I realize that I was a very silly boy. Just wait and see. Right, time to add some of the Blood Angelness. And in the spirit of me trying to get more into an airbrush, I decided to do what I've seen all the cool people do. I got me some masking tape and used it to outline the area where I want the Blood Angelness to be. And as you see, I decided to have it a big fat stripe of Blood Angel going diagonally across him. I don't know, it's just something a bit different. With the tape all laid, I then sprayed. With questionable results, but I think overall they were more good than questionable, I think. Apart from this side, for some odd reason this side of the Rhino turned out looking a bit weird, but frankly, I can work it into the disguisedness of him, I think. Hopefully. Maybe. But thankfully, when I took the tape off, we almost entirely had some nice crisp edges, which will be perfect and just ripe for making those beautiful blue glowing transition lines. Overall, I'm very pleased with it. Not my first time with masking tape, but my first time with it in an airbrush, and it was very satisfying. 10 out of 10 would tape a Rhino again. It's time to do those glowing Alpha Legion transition lines. But before that, I need to redo all the silver extra bits around the place that I covered with the Blood Angels red, because like I said the other day, I'm a very silly boy. So unlike for my Helldrake this time, the majority of the glow I'm going to do with an airbrush, because again, I'm really trying to up my airbrush game. The colors, however, will be the same. Into my airbrush, I put Techless Blue, and then followed along the transition between the red and the teal. I won't lie, I was a bit concerned about how it turned out. I was thinking, oh, this isn't looking as smooth as I'd have hoped. But I trusted in my process, and I moved back to my brush to put on the Baharoff Blue, which I kind of splodged on like a very heavy-handed stippling, because I want it to kind of look like a weird, organic, lightning kind of look, And then with that done, with my fine brush, I just took some straight up white scar and then just traced a line along it. And I'll be honest guys, with it done, it looks really cool. I'm actually really pleased with this. Then with that, it's time for a few sigils before some final details. I didn't have any decent Space Marine Blood Angel ones, so I freehanded this, I'm pretty sure Assault Squad 7 on the front of the Blood Angel side, as well as the old yellow drop on the back there. Now there's no way in the hells I would do an Alpha Legion one, so I did have some transfer sheets for that thankfully. And now this guy's really taking shape. We just need to sort out some of the lighting, like highlights and whatnot, and then I think he's pretty much done. After recess shading the red Blood Angels midsection of the tank, it's time to go on to the highlights. Edge highlighting, of course, everyone's favorite. So for me, on vehicles, I'm not sure why, but I like the edge highlights to be quite fine, rather than nice, thick, chunky ones, which do work in some places, but not on vehicles like this, with these harsh edges and whatnot. I don't know, I just feel they should be finer. And of course, the thing for me to watch out for is that glow effect, but thankfully, as I approached it with any edges, I just lessened off and off until I was off the vehicle, and frankly, I think it looks really good. I also did edge highlighting on the Alpha Legion side of it because I think it needed some of it, and I'm glad I did because it looks really good for it. This is technically the first time I've done any edge highlighting for any Alpha Legion because of how I've painted them up until now. I also did the shading and highlights for the metals like the tank treads and the ramming spikes on the front, also for the hatch and the missile launcher on top, which I then glued into place. I had a comment earlier on one of my Alpha Legion Chaos Rhino shorts by one Craigie Stevens 4145. Pointing out that I really should add some dust to the model, much like I did for my other Alpha Legion units. And frankly, I agree wholeheartedly, so thanks for pointing that out, man. I don't doubt at some point it crossed my mind, but I apparently just forgot like a silly boy. So anyways, to do this, I got two colors, Gorthor Brown and Xandri Dust. I don't have any kind of technical paints that really work here to get like gunk stuck in the treads. So what I did, I got the Gorthor Brown and then dry brushed with a small, relatively firm brush over the tracks and a little bit over the edges of the model. I did not do around the edges of the Blood Angel part because that's an illusion, and in my opinion, illusions don't get dirty, at least not that much. Then I repeated the dry brushing again with a larger, softer brush with the Xandri Dust, going a bit higher up the model. So real light dust just kicking up the whole thing. And with that done, honestly, I feel that really sealed the deal. I think something was niggling at me that there was something missing, and I guess this was it. And then with that, that's that. We now have a transforming Alpha Legion Chaos Rhino. And I think it looks really good. I love what the airbrush has done with the glowing effects on the transition line. It also made a nice change of pace from the usual kind of chaos, organic-y, crazy, wacky nonsense that Chaos like to do, even the Alpha Legion. But with that, it's time to move on. This army ain't gonna build itself. Let's see what I do next, shall we?